January 26th, 1945, 14:30 hours, Holtzwihr, France. Second Lieutenant Audie Leon Murphy crouches in a frozen ditch, watching through binoculars as 6 German tanks and approximately 250 infantry advance across the snow-covered field toward his position. Murphy commands Company B, 15th Infantry Regiment, 3rd Infantry Division, or what's left of it. 48 hours of continuous combat have reduced his company from 128 men to 19. 18 soldiers and Murphy, against 250 Germans and 6 tanks. The mathematics are simple and brutal. Murphy's position will be overrun in approximately 30 minutes unless reinforcements arrive or a miracle happens. Reinforcements aren't coming. Every available unit is committed to other sectors of the Colmar Pocket Offensive, which means Murphy needs a miracle, or he needs to create one. 50 meters behind Murphy's position sits an M10 tank destroyer, a 30-ton armored vehicle mounting a 3-inch gun and a 50 caliber machine gun. The M10 was knocked out yesterday by German artillery. Its crew is dead, and 15 minutes ago, a German shell struck it again, igniting fuel and ammunition inside. The M10 is burning. Murphy watches the German advance for another 30 seconds, calculating distances and angles. The Germans are 200 yards away and closing. His 18 remaining men have rifles and 2 light machine guns. Inadequate firepower against 250 infantry supported by tanks. The burning M10's 50 caliber machine gun is still functional, mounted on the turret, exposed to the open air, with 2,000 rounds of ammunition in the ready box. The machine gun could decimate the German infantry, but using it requires climbing onto a burning vehicle filled with fuel and live ammunition that could detonate at any moment. Murphy makes his decision. "Fall back to the tree line," he orders his men. "Establish defensive positions there. I'll delay them." "Sir, how are you going to?" his platoon sergeant starts to ask. "Just go," Murphy snaps. Murphy runs toward the burning M10. Smoke pours from the engine compartment. Flames lick through ventilation grills. The temperature near the vehicle is over 300 degrees Fahrenheit, hot enough to blister exposed skin. Murphy climbs onto the rear deck, pulls himself up to the turret, and mans the 50 caliber machine gun. Below him, the M10 is a bomb waiting to explode. Ahead of him, 250 German soldiers are advancing. Murphy chambers around, centers the sights on the nearest German squad, and fires. For the next hour, 2nd Lieutenant Audie Murphy, 19 years old, 5 feet 5 inches tall, 112 pounds, will single-handedly hold off an entire German company and earn the Medal of Honor. The boy they said was too small. Audie Leon Murphy was born June 20th, 1925, in Kingston, Texas, a tiny farming community where poverty was normal and hope was rare. His family was sharecroppers, tenant farmers who worked land they didn't own, keeping a portion of crops as payment. The work was brutal, the pay minimal, and the future non-existent. Murphy was the 7th of 12 children. His father abandoned the family in 1940, leaving Murphy at age 15 as the primary provider for his mother and siblings. Murphy worked picking cotton, clearing brush, doing any labor that paid. He was small, barely 5 feet tall at age 15, weighing maybe 90 pounds, but strong and determined. When his mother died in 1941, Murphy was 16 years old and responsible for his younger siblings. He placed the youngest children with relatives and tried to keep working, but the money wasn't enough, and the future looked increasingly hopeless. On December 7, 1941, Japan attacked Pearl Harbor. Like millions of young Americans, Murphy saw military service as his way out, a chance to escape poverty, serve his country, and maybe become something more than a poor farm boy from Texas. Murphy tried to enlist in the Marines in 1942. He was 17 years old, stood 5 feet 5 inches, and weighed 112 pounds. The Marine recruiter looked at him and said, "You're too small. We need men, not boys. Come back when you grow up." Murphy tried the Navy. "Too small," they said. Murphy tried the Army paratroopers, the most elite infantry in 1942. "Too small," they said. Finally, Murphy tried regular Army infantry. The recruiter hesitated. Murphy looked like he was 14, not 17, but the Army needed men badly in 1942. "Can you shoot?" the recruiter asked. "Yes, sir," Murphy said. "Been hunting since I was 5. Can you follow orders?" "Yes, sir." "Can you march with a full pack?" "I'll do whatever it takes, sir." The recruiter shrugged and approved Murphy's enlistment. Basic training was difficult. Murphy struggled with physical requirements because of his size. The 30-pound M1 Garand rifle felt heavy in his small hands. The full combat pack, 60 pounds of equipment, was half his body weight. Marching 20 miles left him exhausted, while larger soldiers seemed fine. But Murphy never quit. "I was small," Murphy would later recall, "but I wasn't weak, and I wasn't afraid of hard work. I'd been working since I was 5 years old. The army was easier than sharecropping." Murphy's marksmanship scores were exceptional. He could hit targets at 500 yards that other recruits couldn't even see. His instructors noted that Murphy had a natural talent for reading terrain and understanding tactical situations. And most importantly, Murphy never panicked under pressure. In combat simulations, while other recruits froze or made mistakes, Murphy stayed calm and executed correctly. "Murphy thinks like a hunter," one instructor wrote in his evaluation. "He doesn't rush. He observes, calculates, and then acts decisively. That mindset makes good infantry soldiers." Murphy shipped to North Africa in February 1943, assigned to Company B, 15th Infantry Regiment, 3rd Infantry Division. He was 17 years old. He'd never been outside Texas before joining the Army, and he was about to experience combat that would test everything he thought he knew about himself. Road to Colmar. Murphy's first combat action came during the Sicily invasion in July 1943. His company landed on beaches near Licata, encountering light resistance initially, but within hours, German and Italian forces counterattacked. Murphy experienced combat for the first time, the sound of bullets snapping past his head, the concussion of artillery, the sight of friends dying. "I was terrified," Murphy admitted years later. Everyone is terrified in their first combat. The difference is whether you function despite the terror or freeze because of it. Murphy functioned. During a German counterattack, Murphy's squad leader was killed by machine gun fire. Murphy took command, not because he was senior, he was the youngest, but because he acted while others hesitated. He identified the German machine gun position, maneuvered his squad to flank it, and destroyed it with grenades. His platoon commander noted Murphy's actions and recommended him for promotion. By September 1943, 2 months after landing in Sicily, Murphy was promoted to corporal. By January 1904, he was a sergeant. By August 1904, after fighting through Sicily, Italy, and southern France, Murphy was a second lieutenant. 19 years old and commanding a rifle platoon. Murphy's combat record during this period was exceptional. Sicily, July 1943. Destroyed 2 German machine gun nests, killed 5 enemy soldiers. Salerno, September 1943. Led patrol that captured 12 Italian soldiers and located German artillery positions. Anzio, January-May 1944. Destroyed German machine gun position single-handedly after his squad was pinned down, killed 7 Germans. Southern France, August 1904. Led attack that cleared German positions, personally killed 6 enemy soldiers and captured 15. By January 1945, Murphy had killed approximately 80 enemy soldiers. He'd been wounded twice, shrapnel in the hip at Anzio, bullet graze across the shoulder in France. He'd earned the Distinguished Service Cross, Army's second highest decoration, 2 Silver Stars, 3 Purple Hearts, and numerous other medals. And he'd developed a reputation. Murphy was the soldier you wanted with you when everything went wrong. Murphy didn't look like a soldier, recalled Corporal Elmer Brawley, who served in Murphy's platoon. He looked like somebody's kid brother, but in combat he was ice cold. Never panicked, never hesitated. He'd assess a situation, make a decision, and execute, usually the right decision. That calmness under fire kept a lot of us alive. In January 1945, Murphy's company was committed to the Colmar Pocket Offensive, an operation to eliminate the last German forces west of the Rhine River. The fighting was brutal. Winter temperatures dropped to 10 degrees Fahrenheit. Deep snow made movement difficult. German forces, knowing they were defending their last position before the Rhine, fought with desperate determination. Company B, 15th Infantry, suffered heavy casualties. On January 24th, the company entered combat with 128 men. By January 26th, after 48 hours of continuous fighting, only 19 remained. The survivors, under Murphy's command, were ordered to hold a position near Holtzwihr, France. blocking a key road the Germans needed to escape encirclement. The mission was simple: hold until reinforcements arrived. But the Germans weren't waiting for reinforcements. They were attacking. 1 hour alone, 1430 hours, January 26, 1945. Murphy stands on the burning Pentanguine destroyer, gripping the .50 caliber machine gun. Heat from the fire below radiates through the turret floor. Murphy's boots are already smoking from contact with hot metal. The M10's ammunition compartment contains approximately 500 rounds of 3-inch gun ammunition and several thousand rounds of .50 caliber ammunition. If the fire reaches that ammunition, the entire vehicle will explode with Murphy on it. But Murphy isn't thinking about that. He's thinking about the 250 German soldiers advancing across the snow-covered field. Range, 180 yards and closing. The Germans move in standard infantry assault formation. 3 platoons in line, with tanks providing overwatch from 400 yards back. They expect minimal resistance. Their intelligence reports say the American position has been nearly wiped out. They don't expect a single American on a burning tank destroyer. Murphy centers his sights on the nearest German squad. 10 men advancing in a loose skirmish line. He fires a 3-second burst. The .50 caliber M2 Browning machine gun fires 450 to 550 rounds per minute, approximately 8 to 9 rounds per second. Murphy's 3-second burst puts 25 rounds downrange. At 180 yards, with Murphy aiming center mass at a group target, the hit probability is nearly 100%. 8 of the 10 Germans in the squad go down, killed or wounded by .50 caliber rounds that deliver 13,000 foot-pounds of kinetic energy per impact. The 2 survivors dive into the snow, seeking cover. The rest of the German formation hesitates. They have just watched a squad get decimated in 3 seconds. Murphy traverses the machine gun right, targeting the next squad. Another burst, 6 seconds this time, 50 rounds. Another German squad scattered, multiple casualties. The German company commander, Captain Klaus Schneider, realizes he's facing unexpected resistance. He orders his men to spread out, use terrain for cover, and identify the source of fire. German soldiers begin maneuvering in small groups, using frozen irrigation ditches for concealment, advancing by rushes. It's proper infantry tactics, exactly what Murphy would do in their position, but Murphy has advantages they don't. Position. Murphy is elevated on the M10, giving him clear field of view across the flat snow-covered field. Firepower. The .50 caliber machine gun outranges and outclasses German infantry weapons. Ammunition. The M10's ammo box contains 2,000 rounds, more than enough for an hour of sustained fire. Motivation. Murphy knows that if the Germans reach his position, his 18 men at the tree line will die, and the German forces will break through American lines. Murphy settles into a rhythm, scan for movement, identify target, short burst, 3-5 seconds, assess effect, traverse to next target, repeat. The .50 caliber's barrel begins glowing red from heat. Murphy is firing so frequently that the barrel doesn't have time to cool between bursts. The machine gun's operating manual says to change barrels after 150 rounds of sustained fire to prevent overheating. Murphy has fired over 500 rounds in 15 minutes. The barrel is beyond recommended temperature limits, but it keeps firing. At 14:45 hours, 15 minutes into the engagement, Murphy's field telephone rings. It's his battalion commander, Lieutenant Colonel Keith Ware, calling from the command post 800 yards behind Murphy's position. "Murphy, what's your situation?" Ware asks. "I'm on the tank destroyer, sir," Murphy reports, his voice calm despite the chaos. "Approximately 200 Germans advancing. I'm engaging with the .50 cal, holding them for now." "The tank destroyer is burning, Murphy. Get off it before it explodes." "Can't do that, sir. If I leave this position, they'll overrun us in 5 minutes." "Reinforcements are coming. ETA 30 minutes. "I'll be here, sir," Murphy says, and hangs up. He traverses the machine gun left, spotting Germans trying to flank his position. Fire, another burst, another squad disrupted. At 1500 hours, German tanks move forward, trying to get close enough to destroy the M10 with direct fire. The German tanks are Panzer IVs, equipped with 75mm guns effective against armor at ranges up to 1,000 yards. But the M10 is already destroyed. Shooting it again accomplishes nothing, and the tanks can't depress their guns low enough to hit Murphy, who's lying nearly flat on the turret. Murphy ignores the tanks and focuses on infantry. Without infantry support, tanks are vulnerable. Murphy knows this from 2 years of combat. He systematically targets any German soldier who approaches within 150 yards, preventing them from getting close enough to assault the tank with satchel charges or anti-tank weapons. The German advance stalls. Captain Schneider has committed his entire company, 250 men, and achieved nothing except casualties. Approximately 30 Germans are dead. 50 more are wounded. The rest are pinned down in frozen ditches, unable to advance against Murphy's fire. Would you climb onto a burning vehicle to save your men, or order a retreat to fight another day? Tell me in the comments. The wound, 15 hours. Murphy has been firing continuously for 45 minutes. The 50 caliber barrel is white hot. Occasionally rounds cook off from residual barrel heat, even when Murphy isn't pulling the trigger. The M10 below Murphy is still burning, smoke and heat making breathing difficult. Murphy's hands are blistered from contact with hot metal. His face is black with powder residue and soot, and he's running low on ammunition. Approximately 400 rounds remain. Then German artillery opens fire. German forward observers have finally identified Murphy's position and called in artillery support. The first salvo lands 50 yards short, 3 105mm shells exploding in the snow, sending up geysers of frozen earth. Murphy doesn't move. The second salvo lands closer, 20 yards short. One shell fragment strikes the M10's hull, sending sparks and metal splinters flying. Murphy ducks reflexively but maintains his position. The third salvo is on target. One shell explodes 10 feet from the M10. The concussion throws Murphy against the turret ring. Shrapnel tears through his right leg, multiple fragments penetrating muscle in his thigh and calf. Pain explodes through Murphy's body. His leg collapses, the muscles damaged, unable to bear weight. Blood soaks through his uniform trouser. For 5 seconds, Murphy considers abandoning the position. He's wounded. He's been fighting alone for 45 minutes. He's almost out of ammunition. The M10 could explode at any moment. Then Murphy sees German infantry rising from cover, preparing to assault. They think the artillery has killed him. Murphy pulls himself back to the machine gun. Standing is impossible with his damaged leg. So, Murphy props himself against the turret, using his left leg for support and dragging his wounded right leg. He centers the machine gun on the advancing Germans and fires. The Germans, expecting to find a dead American, instead face renewed fire. They drop back into cover. The assault stalls again. At 15:30 hours, 1 hour after Murphy climbed onto the burning M10, American reinforcements arrive. A platoon from Company A, 15th Infantry, supported by 2 M4 Sherman tanks, attacks the German flank. Caught between Murphy's fire from the front and the reinforcement attack from the flank, the German forces break and retreat. Captain Schneider, the German company commander, has lost approximately 50 dead and 80 wounded. His company is no longer combat effective. The attack on Holtzwihr has failed. American medics reach Murphy's position. They find him still manning the machine gun, his right leg soaked with blood, his hands blistered and burned, his face black with smoke and powder. "Lieutenant, you need medical attention," the medic says. "Did we hold?" Murphy asks. "Yes, sir. The Germans are withdrawing. You held." Murphy nods and finally releases the machine gun. As medics help him down from the M10, the tank destroyer's ammunition finally cooks off. The explosion throws flames 50 feet into the air. If Murphy had remained on the vehicle another 2 minutes, he would have been killed. 33, medals, and a nightmare. Murphy's actions at Holtzwihr earned him the Medal of Honor, America's highest military decoration. The citation read, Second Lieutenant Audie L. Murphy, Company B, 15th Infantry, for conspicuous gallantry and intrepidity at the risk of life above and beyond the call of duty. On 26 January 1945, near Holtzwihr, France, he jumped on a burning tank destroyer and with a single machine gun killed or wounded 50 Germans, holding off 6 tanks and approximately 250 enemy infantrymen for over an hour. But the Medal of Honor was just one of Murphy's decorations. By war's end in May 1945, Murphy had earned, from the United States, Medal of Honor, Distinguished Service Cross, 2 Silver Stars, Legion of Merit, 2 Bronze Stars, 3 Purple Hearts from France, Legion of Honor, Croix de Guerre with Palm. From Belgium, Belgian Croix de Guerre. Total, 33 decorations for valor, making Murphy the most decorated American combat soldier of World War II. Murphy returned to the United States in June 1945. He was 20 years old. He'd killed approximately 240 enemy soldiers during the war, more than any other American soldier. He'd been wounded 3 times. He'd commanded men in combat for 18 months. And he looked like a teenager. Life magazine featured Murphy on its cover in July 1945 with the headline, "Most Decorated Soldier." Hollywood actor James Cagney saw the cover and invited Murphy to California, offering to help launch an acting career. Murphy had no acting experience, no formal education beyond 8th grade, and no connections in Hollywood. But he had something Hollywood wanted, a genuine American hero story. Between 1948 and 1969, Murphy appeared in 44 films, mostly westerns where his combat experience translated well to action roles. His most famous film was To Hell and Back, 1955, based on his autobiography, with Murphy playing himself. The film was Universal Pictures' highest-grossing movie until Jaws in 1975. But success in Hollywood couldn't erase what Murphy experienced in combat. Murphy suffered from what we now call post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD, though in 1945 it was called combat fatigue or shell shock. Murphy had nightmares, reliving combat, seeing dead friends, waking up screaming. He had hypervigilance, unable to relax, always scanning for threats, startling at sudden noises. He had survivor's guilt, asking why he lived when so many friends died. And he self-medicated with alcohol and sleeping pills, trying to quiet his mind enough to sleep. Murphy was open about his struggles, unusual for the 1950s when mental health issues were stigmatized. "I had nightmares every night," Murphy told Life magazine in 1955. "I'd dream I was back in combat. I'd see my friends dying. I'd wake up grabbing for a weapon that wasn't there. It took years before I could sleep through the night." Murphy became an advocate for PTSD treatment, testifying before Congress about the need for better mental health support for veterans. His advocacy helped reduce stigma and increase funding for veteran mental health services. On May 28, 1971, Murphy was traveling by private plane to a business meeting in Virginia. The plane, a twin-engine Aero Commander, encountered severe weather near Roanoke, Virginia. The pilot attempted to land but crashed into Brush Mountain, killing everyone aboard. Audie Murphy died at age 45. He was buried at Arlington National Cemetery with full military honors. His gravesite is the second most visited at Arlington, after President Kennedy's. The legend and the cost. Audie Murphy's story represents something important about heroism. It's not about size, strength, or appearance. It's about making the right decision when every instinct says to run. Murphy wasn't physically imposing. He was smaller and lighter than most of his soldiers. He wasn't naturally aggressive. Friends described him as quiet and thoughtful. He wasn't fearless. He admitted being terrified in combat. But when his men needed him, when the situation required someone to do something impossible, Murphy did it, climbing onto a burning tank destroyer, standing alone against 250 enemies, refusing to retreat even when wounded. That's heroism. Not the absence of fear, but action despite fear. Murphy's Medal of Honor action at Holtzwihr has been analyzed by military historians as a near-perfect example of defensive combat. Superior positioning. Murphy chose high ground with clear fields of fire. Effective use of weapons. The .50 caliber machine gun was the right tool for engaging infantry at 100-200 yards. Fire discipline. Murphy fired short, controlled bursts rather than spraying wildly, conserving ammunition and maintaining effectiveness. Tactical awareness. Murphy prioritized targets correctly. Infantry over tanks, flanking forces over frontal assault. Moral courage. Murphy's willingness to accept personal risk inspired his men and denied the enemy a psychological victory. The action has been taught at the U.S. Army Infantry School since the 1950s as an example of how individual initiative can influence tactical outcomes. But Murphy's legacy extends beyond military tactics. He proved that heroism isn't reserved for physical giants or naturally aggressive warriors. The 5'5", 112-pound farm boy from Texas became the most decorated soldier of World War II because he made the right decisions consistently under pressure. That's a lesson applicable far beyond combat. In your life, have you ever had to do something terrifying because it was the right thing to do? I'd love to hear your story in the comments. January 26, 1945. 1 hour on a burning tank destroyer. One teenager with a machine gun. 50 Germans killed or wounded. And a position held until reinforcements arrived. Audie Murphy's Medal of Honor action at Holtzwihr wasn't about superhuman strength or fearlessness. It was about a decision. Run and let your men die, or stay and fight despite impossible odds. Murphy stayed. For 33 decorations, a Hollywood career, and a legacy that inspired millions of veterans. But Murphy would tell you the real heroes were the ones who didn't come home. The friends who died in Sicily, Italy, France, and Germany. The soldiers whose names appear on memorials rather than movie screens. Murphy survived to tell their stories, and we honor him by remembering them. These stories of courage, sacrifice, and the cost of heroism deserve to be remembered. Subscribe so they never fade into history. Next time, the siege where paratroopers held frozen ground against overwhelming odds and gave Hitler his first major defeat in the West.